Hi, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Rick's Music Collection. I'm Rick Olivares, and in this series of videos, I show you my music collection, whether it's on vinyl, CD, cassette, magazines, or any other stuff. And we'll even talk about issues regarding music in the local music scene or elsewhere. For tonight, I will delve further into my Filipino music collection and for this particular episode, I want to show the old records that came out from the 60s up to the 1980s, the records that came out in the 1980s. Okay, just to recap, my father was the president of the Philippine Association of the Record Industry, and it was he who turned me on to music. I became a music fan as early as I think I was what uh, 7 years old, 8 years old, and back then, this was the 1970s. I didn't watch TV during weekdays. The only thing that I could listen to was the radio. We were not allowed because you're supposed to focus on our studies. It's only on Fridays and the weekends that you're allowed to watch television. So radio was a lifeline into something that to while the time away. And I really only listen to DZRJ. It's the only station that I listen to. And yeah, they played rock music, but Howling Dave played, punk and new wave, which was totally different from the rest of the music that the other jocks were playing. And that was an incredible time for someone young like me, and it gave me something to look forward to. Now, as I said, my dad was the one who turned me on to music. Um, he was the president of Disc Corporation. Disc Corporation was the local distributor of Casablanca Records. So that's Kiss, the band Kiss, the rock band Kiss. He had progressive rock band Angel. Yeah, then he had disco acts like Terry Desario, Donna Summer, The Village People, um, Paul Jabara. They even had sub labels that had Casey and the Sunshine Band, among others. And so obviously from the music that he released, I was only interested in Kiss and even Angel. They had a band called Fanny that featured Filipina Americans, but I didn't know it back then. We had copies, but I didn't really listen to that one. But so my lifeline into music was DZRJ, Jingle Magazine, Cream Magazine, which was my favorite among all the magazines, and Rolling Stone. Huh? But yeah, Cream. So that's where I read about all these new bands. But in terms of OPM, the first OPM record that I ever got was the Juan de la Cruz Band. This was their third and last album, the Power Trio group of Wally Gonzalez, Pepe Smith, and Mike Hanno Paul. Kahit Anong Mangyari was their third and last album. They actually cut 4 albums, but the debut album was without Mike and Pepe. That was just Wally and another bunch of musicians, like Alex Cruz, the father of Ira Cruz, who played with Bamboo and Kapatid, among others. So anyway, I'll show you the records that I have from the 1960s to the 1980s. So like I said, my first record was the Juan de la Cruz Band, and that was in 1981. Okay, so the others, I got them retroactively during those years because hindi naman scarce ang OPM. You could just go to any record store and find OPM records. They were always available, always, always. Some of the records that I will show you, I got during the 80s. Some I acquired later on. Some of these records I had back then, but lost and I reacquired later. But essentially, this is it. What you will not be seeing in this video are records like the Eraserheads and that came out recently. So I will do another video about that. So this one is just on the old stuff. These are all original pressings, okay? You will not see any reissues, okay? I included all the reissues in. I will include them rather in that other video featuring the new releases. Okay, so I was exposed to a lot of stuff, music that I didn't like at first, no, but later on I began to appreciate. Here's one, Andrew E. Manap ka ng pangit. And I only got this, if you look at it, the condition is not really great. In fact, it's a DIY cover that, because nasira yung cover, so they had to redo it. And I got this really dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. Why not, right? That was the rap album that really took rap into the stratosphere. Because, well, Francis M. really, you know, was he brought it to a to a general awareness. But Andrew E, because maybe the songs are more massa, um, got a lot of people listening. This is the Japanese release of Freddie Aguilar's Anak. Now, there's an interesting story here because um, there was this Japanese national who was in the Philippines for some business, and he was in a taxi and he heard the song Anak. And he asked, where can I get information about this guy? I don't know how, but for some reason he found himself in my dad's offices at VV Sullivan along EDSA. And my dad pointed him to Viva, but they also came up with the idea of releasing it also in Japan. And as you all know, it was a monstrous hit. Okay? Another of Freddie's records, Bayan Ko, Di Ka Nag-iisa. I won't talk about this guy and how he's changed his political leanings. Apo Hiking Society. Okay, this is their 10th anniversary album, and it was like the greatest hits of the time. Okay, this was the first Apo Hiking record that I bought, the worst of the Apo Hiking Society. This was immediately pressed after their infamous controversial concert at Ultra, where they for the first time they infused their music with political commentary or satire, and by word of mouth it spread. And, they put this out rather quick. In fact, after that, they were, because they were taking shots at the government, they were banned from all the other venues, and the only place that they could perform was at Loyola Center inside the Ateneo, since they graduates from Ateneo. And I was there during that concert at the Ateneo. And the guy directing the show is the late director, Bert De Leon, who passed away very recently. And Direct Bert lent his gen set just in case someone decides to pull the plug, like suddenly there's a power failure and the show would go on. But nothing happened naman of that sort. And there was a nervous crowd at Loyola Center that night. And we were afraid. There was word going around that the cops might come over, put a stop to the concert and arrest people. But nothing happened. Nothing of that sort. So I have that record. That's the record that I got a long time ago. Asin, their debut. And this one, another album from Asin. This is actually sealed when I got it. I got it from my friend Craig Burrows, and he gave me a copy of this one. And I opened it, because if I kept it closed, it would warp. I bought this a couple of years ago. This is the debut, if I'm not mistaken, from Nora Honor, Pindera. And I wanted to get a nice sampling of a lot of old Filipino music, so I got this one in Nora. Ding Dong Avanzado, as you can see, he signed this record for me. Si Ding Dong, kalaro ko ng basketball. I went to Ateneo, he went to LaSalle, but he would join our group at the Moro Lorenzo Sports Center twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, or was it Sundays? We would play. And that's how I became friends with Ding Dong. Plays pretty good basketball. So couple of years ago, he had a concert, and he was the headline concert, and the band that I managed at Remborak was one of the opening acts, and this is where I asked Ding Dong to sign her. Believe it or not, I also have the 7-inch single. Okay, this is Joe Bataan, Phil American, and this is, soul music. So really good stuff, to be honest. And it's a shame that he wasn't a bigger hit than he was. More of Joe Bataan, Afro-Filipino. As I understand, he came here several years ago to perform, and I wasn't here. I was still abroad. I missed it, and I'm kicking myself. I wish I got to see him. Bayanihan Sings, again, these are one of those old Filipino music that I wanted to have and collect. And I think that's the gift of my dad, learning to appreciate all sorts of music. Because, back then, I loved rock and roll. I was into Kiss, as I said, I was into Angel, I loved Led Zeppelin, I listened to Deep Purple, Aerosmith, Van Halen, But at the time, Kiss was my favorite band. Um, we would listen to Queen and the Rolling Stones, but because my dad would play a lot of music at home, and as a youngster, you listen to it, you kind of like it, but not too much. Not too much, just a little bit of it. And you could not admit to your friends in school that you like them because you'd be considered baduy, because you were all rock and rollers. And so, but that germ of listening to music, different genres of music, was there, and it allowed me to appreciate a lot of things as I was getting older. Okay, this is salsa music from Blackbuster. It's like an all-star band, and it's all instrumental stuff. Okay, and as you can see, it's just non-stop dance music. It's like it's mixed. Okay. Here, blue jeans, and well, it's a little bit water damaged and warped to the ears, but it plays really nice. Sounds really nice. Boyfriends, Dahil Mahal Kita, they put out 2 albums in 1978, if I'm not mistaken. This one and this one. This was during the time that when the Bee Gees ruled the world, they ruled the universe. And along with VST and company, they wanted to sound like the Bee Gees. They put out one more album. I don't have that one. Okay. Teresa Carpio, I would hear her music on 99.5 RP. So DZRJ was my station, but uh, grade 6, I was in 6th grade when my classmate Hector Garde introduced me to the American Top 40 on 99.5 RP. So this is 1979, 1980. So I started to listen to 99.5 RT. I would split between RT and DCRJ. So it was in RT where I first heard Teresa Carpio. And I'm happy I have her greatest hits. Okay. Celeste Legaspi. This is her first album, Pop Songs, and this is just great stuff. She sang a lot of old songs written by Rolando Tino, who unfortunately was never my professor in Ateneo. Diba? This is a really good album, and I love it. More Celeste. Ako at si Celeste. These are my only 2 albums of hers, and nandito yung Tuliro, it's here, diba? And Saranggola ni Pepe, 2 of her biggest hits. Jose Marie Chan, Can You Just Stop and Talk a While? Can You Just Stop and Talk a While? It was so popular when I was a kid. And I love it. He's a great songwriter, Jose Marie Chan. And, I'm lucky enough to call him a friend as well. And I've interviewed him in one of my podcasts. Okay? And that was a really, really fun podcast. It helps that he's friends with my dad. So it makes it easier to be able to converse with the Great Assembly channel. Uh, Constant change. Okay. Now, there's an interesting story about this record. Um, my original copy of this is just so damaged because one, you as you get, you don't, after all, you think it's really Baduy and all that, but so you just keep it and you don't really take good care of it, and so it wasn't in the best of shape. This copy, believe it or not, I got it for 50 pesos. It's in fabulous shape. I won't tell you how I got it for $50, but it's a massive steal. So when did I get it for $50? Right before the start of the pandemic. Right before the pandemic, the lockdown. Okay. Circus on Tour. Yes, this is the original. I have no intentions of getting the reissue. This is it. If I have the original, I'm not really getting the reissue. I'm okay. I don't think the reissues sound great anyways. Okay. Timmy Cruz. Okay. She was kind of popular back in the day. Sharon Cuneta. Of course, I have Sharon, among local singers and local actresses, who didn't have a crush on Sharon? I did. I certainly did. And my sister went to St. Paul's school in Pasig, where Shawi also went. And coming from Ateneo, I would pick my sister up, and I wouldn't want to go there, but I only went there so I could get a glimpse of Sharon Cuneta. And I did. I did. I would go with my mom to market on Saturdays to buy song hits, Sports Flash, Atlas Sports Weekly. That's what I would buy. And I bought a poster of Sharon Cuneta that I hung. Because I had a double-decker bed. My brother stayed on top and I stayed below. So underneath my brother's bunk on the top, that's where I put Sharon's poster. So when I wake up, I see Sharon. That's a fucking hilarious thing, right? Bosho, Portrait of the Swooners. Okay. First in Japan. All remix. Okay. Now this one, Tequila, is a Filipino American band. It's mixed, and not all of them are Filipinos. And they are from the Bay Area, San Francisco. And they were heavily inspired by Santana after Woodstock. And this is a fusion of psychedelic rock, and there are a lot of world influences in this one. This is their one and only album, and I have their one and only 7-inch single. Okay? Believe it or not, the flip side of the single is how to pronounce certain words or names from the band and even the song titles. Okay? And if you like psychedelic rock, you're gonna love this album. You're gonna love this band. And I do have 2 copies of that. This is the first ever release of The Dawn. First ever. 12-inch. And remember, this is during the New Wave era. So this is a dance remix of Envelope Ideas. And it's signed. Okay. This is the first one. It preceded their debut album. Okay. The Dawn. As you can see, I put all my records in plastic. No, it's not the resealable because I don't like resealable stuff. I know it keeps out dirt. And it does, but every time you open the record, then you nalulukot yung plastic, and I don't like it. The Dawn Live, when I first bought this, I got it on cassette. And I played it a lot that I broke that cassette now. So I had to buy another cassette. And eventually I did get this record. Oh, this one. This is popular back in the day. The Pinoy Beetles from the local band Dinosaurs. Obviously, they're under Dyna Records, and they did Beatles medleys and Beatles songs, but they Tagalized it. So they changed some words into Filipino, Tagalog. So this is beautiful. They put out another album, and that one I don't have. But this is a nice one to have. If I find the volume two, I'm gonna get it. Original pressing of Ella Del Rosario's uh, one and only solo album with these big hit songs, Mr. Disco, Sabik na Sabik, and Ako'y Litong Lito. Obviously, she's with the band Hot Dog, and this is her solo album. Okay. Uh, oh, I forgot to mention Tequila. I did write an article about Tequila recently, and if it were, I was trying to gauge if people would have interest for Tequila, and I think if they come over here, some people would watch. So I'm hoping it happens. You're gonna see a bunch of Bobby Enriquez records, and he was popular back in the day, very very popular. You'd always see his records on display. You'd always see the cassettes, and people would talk about Bobby Enriquez. So I have a bunch of his albums. So I'm just going to show it right here. This one's with The Great Rich Girl. The Wild Man Meets the Madman. Okay. More stuff here. Live in Tokyo. Over the years, I would just fall in love with all sorts of Filipino music. Okay. If the name looks familiar, Abraham Laboriel. He is the drummer of Paul McCartney. Yeah. Bobby Enriquez live at Concerts by the Sea. Native 220. Bobby Enriquez, Wild Piano. Like I said, I have a lot of this stuff because I really enjoy it. This one, Never You Hear No Tukso. Look at that cover, man. This, made a lot of young men's hearts flutter and make them sweat. One of those divas back in Eva and happy to have that in my collection. Torch singer like Eva. Hagibis, the Filipino version of the Village People, and the late Sonny Parsons used to be my neighbor here in Marikina, 2 houses away. One of his last films, he shot it here, one scene here in our house, believe it or not. And I went to watch that film at Ocean Theater in Cubao, and that's all I'll say. Mike Hanopol, Awiting Pilipino, as you can see, it's under Mike. Okay. Ian Hero and his orchestra. Ian Hero is actually Eddie Munhi, the multi-instrumentalist Eddie Munhi. And this was the Philippines' answer to the Raycon of singers and all that. So they would put out stuff like this, because there's this colonial mentality where if it's done by a Filipino, no one's gonna listen to it. But if it's done by a foreigner or with a foreign sounding name, people would try it. So I have a couple of these records. 4 actually. Yeah. So there's this, this fan in me that just wants to get a lot of this stuff. Hot Dog, Unang Kagat, the first album. Looks great, huh? Yes, this is the original. Now this one is a prized record in my collection. When I heard them, so the Dawn had come out, and then there was this explosion of new wave bands. And this is one of those popular ones. And this is a band I truly like and I'm a fan of. This is their debut album, Tale of Two, and features Imagining October, My Sanctuary, Sumigaw Umawit Ka, which is my favorite. And this is just really a superb record. And I don't have their second album. I was never able to get their second album. And during they had a reunion show several years ago. I missed it. I didn't know about it, to be honest. And but I did get to interview the band later on, and I was able to secure two copies of the reunion CD. The reunion CD actually, and you've seen that in a previous episode of Rick's Music Collection. They put together the two albums. Okay, it's a double disc release, and it's I don't know if there's any more of that stuff. But I did get to watch Identity Crisis at the Ultra. They performed with, I think it is called Ultra Storm. They were with the Rage Band and a couple of others. But I didn't really care for the other bands. I just went there to watch Identity Crisis. And and then I left, you know. I left after watching them. Look at that. It's embossed. It's an this is this record's in superb shape. Look at that. It's in superb shape. This is sort of my prize records in my collection. Obviously, you know, because I'm Filipino, the Filipino stuff are valuable, right? I mean, my foreign records, I have a lot of good stuff there, but this one, I'm happy to have. All right, now this band is the Electromaniacs, and this is a, believe it or not, it's a 10-inch record, and but it's at 75 speed. Okay, 75 speed. I bought this 2019, 2019, and I was happy to find this. I think I got it. I got it. 100 pesos, 100 bucks. Believe it or not. And this is that debut album, Jose Marie Gonzalez's Electromaniacs, Lover's Guitar. No, Joe Marie did not perform here. It's just these four dudes. And, you know, if for 60s guitar instrumental bands, you know, like the Shadows, if you like that stuff, yeah, you're gonna like this one. Okay. Lilette. And it has a price over there, 50 pesos. When I started buying records, single records, it cost around 24 or 25 pesos. Double albums were 48, 45, 47, 48 pesos. I was in sixth grade when I started buying records. So I remember the prices because I would buy all the time. I would save my allowance. I would be paid by my classmates to do their homework for them, to draw for them, to write their essays and stuff. And I would gather soft drink bottles in Ateneo and get the 10, 10 centavo deposit later and begin 25 centavos and 50 centavos. I would just collect bottles. I'd make around 5 pesos a day collecting bottles. And that's pretty good. So at the end of the week, by Friday, I could buy a record. Kabod, the Guns to Shell. One of the more popular comic strips at the time. Okay, the jacket of this one got destroyed because it's you just leave them, and through the years, you know you because when I moved out of my parents' house, I left a lot of my stuff. You know, by the 1990s, I had moved on to compact discs, so all my records are in my parents' place, and you know. Because it got moved around a bit and the jacket got destroyed, so we had to do a DIY version of it. But the record itself is in fantastic shape. It sounds great, and I got all three members to sign it. Mhm. Okay. Another Juan de la Cruz band that Super Sessions thing that's supposedly live, but it's not really live. Like Tinig Natin, the jacket was just mangled. It was still around, but not in great shape, and it was just really, really falling apart. So I went to UP and had them scan the cover, and they printed it out, and so it was a DIY cover. Uh, Mascara from Juan de la Cruz. Okay. There's another version of this one that's die cut. I don't have the die cut version. Which one came out first? I don't really know. This is the first OPM record that I bought in my entire life. Kahit anong mangyari from the Juan de la Cruz band. They had changed their sound from the heavy blues rock uh, sludge type of music that they were performing in their first two albums, no? Himig Natin and Mascara. But this one, they were a little bit influenced by New Wave. It was their attempt, but it's still the One de la Cruz band. So you can say it's a little more radio friendly. And during the launch of this one, the album launch was at Alimol in Cubao. And I was there. Then they performed at the Araneta Coliseum. And the autographs, no, I got it much later. I didn't get all of them in one swoop. The first one, the easiest one to get was Pepe Smith, because Pepe was barkada of my brother John, and Pepe would often go to our house here in Marikina, and so Pepe was easy to get, and I've interviewed him on a number of occasions, written about him so many times. Mike Hanupol was the next one that I was able to get, because he was performing a show with Pepe out of town, and we all met up at McDonald's in Katipunan. So interview, asked him to sign this and Awiting Pilipino. Wally Gonzalez, I got him on the night of Pinoy Super Blast Pinoy Bands that was produced by my cousin Bing. That's where he got all finally Wally to sign on it. No? Now, I wish I brought all my other Juan de la Cruz band records, like this Manila concert, 1973. I really wish that I brought it. I regret not bringing it. Kuli Desma, uh, when Ku was looking for a record label to sign on, she first went to my father at this corporation. And that was the time when Eva Eugenio, Claire de la Fuente, um, they were the big stars. And this was the jukebox queen era. There were others, Eva Eugenio, among others. So there were, and when my dad heard the demo of Cool, he absolutely fell in love with this, and he felt that this is going to be a hit. But this was the age of the jukebox queens, and he said, "Can you wait a little bit?" And Cool did not wait, so she left, and she went to Black Gold. So this is it. And my dad's kicking himself for not signing her. Good music is good music, regardless of what is the genre that is popular at the moment. Okay? And I'm such a big fan of Cool. I have more of her stuff. Ako ay Pilipino. It's a double album. Okay. Unforgettable, which is my favorite of all her albums. Imagine that. My dad could have had. Now this one, this is classical music. Letty Liboon sings in New York, and this is just classical music. And I had never seen this before. I saw this in my friend Bob Araneta's shop at Cubao X, the Black Cat, and he was selling this, and I had never seen this before, and I got it. And I reached out and tried to interview Letty. Unfortunately, she had passed away, so I was able only to talk to the daughter. But, sayang. More classical music, Cecil Licad. Do I buy every OPM record that I see? No, I don't. If I could, I would, but it's going to cost a lot of money. More Cecil Licad. Mm-hmm. This one. This is a prized one in the collection. This is Local Brown in fabulous shape. You know. This one, I was pleasantly surprised to see this. The Malabon Brass Band, the very best of Parada Filipino. So this is marching music. I love it. I mean, it brings back the music of the 70s for me, even in commercials. You know. I got that one. This is the Tony Bennett of the Philippines, the late Arthur Manuntag, Timeless. I also have one of his CDs, his albums that came out only in CD. So this one, believe it or not, was not sold. This was given away during an anniversary show. And I got this from the family. I wrote about Arthur when he passed away. I really wish I wrote about him when he was alive. You know, and I'm happy to have this. And what a terrific voice. So much great stuff that's coming out locally. You know. Okay, I talked about records that I had, but because I had left them behind, my mom moved them around and they were kept in a place that, eventually nasira. Diba? Now, this is Maricafra, their debut album. And believe it or not, so at the time, my record of Maricafra was broken. The record broke because it was kept in a case. And I don't know how, because I wasn't here. But when I checked out on my record, it had broken in half, you know. This one, believe it or not, I bought it in Das Marinas, Cavite. Guess how much? 500 pesos. It doesn't have a cover, but I don't care. I'm happy to have it. Master Plan. Some of these hip hop pioneers here in the Philippines, and I'm happy to have this. I'm a fan of Master Plan. You know. More Master Plan. Mm-hmm. The Dawn's guitarist Atsushi Matsura, Incubus, a solo album. When he debuted with the Dawn, it was in the album The Dawn Live, and I reached out to Atsushi to interview him, but he was just giving me the runaround. I said, forget it. If you're gonna make it hard for me, forget it. I'm not gonna do it. By the time he came around to his senses, I was ignoring him. Look, don't be a diva. Okay? Tony from Johnny Midnight. Johnny was a friend of my father's. Remember, he was president of the Philippine Association of the Record Industry. So when this came out, Johnny went to our house in Cubao and gave us this copy, complete with this pyramid. And for my family, which especially around the time was devoutly Catholic, we thought it was blasphemous. But my mom wanted to throw it out, but it was intriguing because around the time, I think, Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon was very popular. So now let's keep it. Let's keep it. We don't have this pyramid anymore. I don't know. I don't really remember what happened to it. But I kept the record. Willie Knepp. Okay, my name is Willie Knepp. This is his one and only album. And, well, not in good shape. But the record sounds okay. The New Minstrels, I got to see them at the Manila Hotel and at the Hotel Intercon. And I went with my father and I got to see them. When I saw them, there's an interesting story there. When we arrived a little bit late to the show, and after they sang one of their songs, they greeted my father. He said, "Oh, they know my dad." Well, that's pretty cool. My one and only record from Pilita Corrales, great songs from Filipino movies. This lady must have about 50 or more records. I should try to get as many Pilita Corrales records as I can. And Pearl Harbor is Filipino American, and this is her solo album. And remember, she was with a band called The Explosions. and I wanted to get this, so I have it. This is a Filipino band called Please Funk and Soul. Uh, this is a promotional copy, and they became very pop. They released this in Germany. This is not released locally, and I just have a copy of this one. And I have their two of their songs on 7-inch, and there was just really a tremendous amount of good records that was coming out. I mean, if you just listen to rock, you will not discover all these other great artists. So I'm certainly happy that I knew of them. I heard of them back in the 70s, and when I could afford to get these records, I did, and it wasn't too expensive to begin with. June Polistico, the best of Filipino love songs. I love this album. Rico J. Puno, his debut album, The Way We Were. Very interesting story about Rico Puno. My dad, along with some of my uncles, brought him to the United States. He was the first Filipino, based here, obviously, in Filipino, to major Philippine star to tour the United States. And I have the poster of that tour. You're going to see that in a future episode where I show you posters in my collection. Okay? So, yes, they brought Rico Puno on a 4-city tour of the United States. And there are a lot of stories about it. But I remember meeting Rico when they left at the old Manila International Airport. I was there to send off my dad and Rico. And we just kept abreast of their adventures in Billboard magazine. Okay. More Rico Puno. Yep, the total entertainer himself, Rico J. Mm-hmm. This is cha-cha music, the Ramrods, instrumental stuff. It's like Blockbuster, but this is cha-cha. Now this is a really old record. The Teenage Touch of RJ and the Riots. And wow, look at this. It's such an old record. This is even older than the Electromagnetic's record that I showed you. Older by probably a year. So this is just guitar and music. I'm happy that I have this. A Filipino-American band, the Rockefellers, Killer Joe. They hit it. They were so unlucky because they had this hit, Killer Joe, and then about a few weeks after it hit the U.S. charts, the Beatles hit the United States, and the British invasion was in full swing. So the Rockefellers disappeared. Sampagnita, their debut album. I did a video about this where I opened it because it was sealed. One of her last album. Okay. I got this only a couple of years ago. Society of Seven, Filipino band based in Hawaii that also features, this is their debut, the father of Martin Rivera, Bert Rivera. Another Society of Seven albums. Okay. The Universal Motion Dancers. Their album did very well when it was released. I wasn't a fan of that stuff, but to be honest, I wish I kept it. I don't have it, but I was able to keep their single, 12-inch single. Universe, Light of Peace. Gary Valenciano, Di Bali Na Lang, 12-inch single. I was a big fan of Gary Valenciano then. This is the original press of Moving Thoughts. Okay. My first time to watch Gary Valenciano live was at the old Rizal Theater, which is now Glorieta 3, is it? Yeah. Basil Valdez. Interesting story about Basil. before he became a very popular. His first he would perform at my uncle's, my un- my uncle Rohel, my tito Rohel's steakhouse in Timog. His steakhouse was called Sacred Cow, and Basil was the in-house singer performer. So I remember going there and just watching Basil because he already made a name for himself in Ateneo, and just to see him there was just really awesome. Then of another kind, uh, the band here under blue skies, they're my batchmates, they're my classmates in Ateneo. Actually, at one point I was a part of this band, but before they became this group under blue skies, and we were the class band, and we performed cover songs. And like our graduation party during high school, we performed. But at that point, there were no originals. We were just doing covers. But when we got to college, they were still serious about their stuff, and they got other members that were outside the Ateneo. This is Champuy. I got it without the. We used to have the record because my dad was classmates with Noel Trinidad. They've been classmates since they were in prep, all the way to college in Ateneo. Subas was not my dad's classmate, but they were friends. My dad was in high school, he was in 4A, and Subas was in 4B, if I'm not mistaken. But they were friends. And my dad would contribute jokes to the show. Handog ng Pilipino sa mundo. I'm happy to have that. And this is something that I was able to acquire recently. Because we also had this, but I don't know what happened to it. Because my dad's collection, mom threw them out later on. Imagine that. My dad had a lot of records, a lot. He had almost every single OPM record, and my mom threw them out. Imagine that. Why throw stuff out? This is a pleasant acquisition. Happy hippie holiday. It's a soundtrack, and if you love 60s, late 60s music like The Fifth Dimension and all that, you're gonna love this. And I love this record. I think it's really great. The soundtrack to Miss Saigon. Hopefully one day I'll get Lea Salonga to sign it. Pinoy Disco compilation album. Another soundtrack, Swing It Baby. VST and Company, mostly VST and Company songs. You got the Nail Clippers, Helen Gamboa, and Vic Soto doing a solo track over there. Christmas album from the New Minstrels. I think this band was from San Beda. I think another Christmas album, Pasko. Now, these next ones that I will show you are Philippine pressings, okay, of foreign artists, but I'm going to include them anyway because they're pressed in the Philippines. All original punk rock. Now, I really don't know if this was pressed elsewhere, but these are records that I've had since I was when I bought them. Heavy rock, Rush, they put this out before Permanent Waves came out because they wanted to test the waters. If this did well, then they would put out records by Thin Lizzy, Def Leppard, and Rush. And obviously, it did well, so they put out those albums as well. This is a compilation album that you will not find anywhere else. It's called It's New Music. And this is actually popular because it contains the songs Whatever Possessed You by The Cure, the live version of Africa in White from Reading University. But what makes this desirable is Abandoned Ship from April Showers. Because this is only a single. They don't have an album. And it costs a lot of money. If you're going to buy that single, it will fetch around 4,000 pesos. So since I have the record, I'm okay with it. Jollibee Character Songs, Volumes 1 and 2. 12-inch record of Freddie Angel, local pressing. Local pressing of New Order. Okay. That's a song True Faith. Sing Out Sister, Wearing the World. And this one. That's All Dance with the Super Friends. I actually have a couple of more local pressings, like the Rolling Stones. But I will show that in my classic rock collection. And yes, they're local pressings. I also have Beatles records that were pressed in the Philippines. Mono. In mono. Imagine that. And these are original 1960s Beatles pressings. And I'm happy to have that. Yeah. So there, those are the Philippine pressings and artists that came out from the late 1950s up to the 1980s. Okay. There are collections that people have collections that have much more than what I have, but I still like the records that I have. I think the Juan de la Cruz band records and Identity Crisis, the Electromagnetic, these are stuff that even how clean it is, how great it looks. The hot dog record that I have, unang tanda, is in fabulous shape. So that alone, I guess, makes it a very good collection. So, but you know what? When I come back, when I do another episode of this time I'll show the records that came out from the new millennium up to today. So these are the records like the Eraserheads, Shudad, Periodico. We'll go through that. And I will just go through that one. Then I'll do another one that features the Filipino punk bands, the metal bands, and all that. Okay. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying all the videos that I'm doing. If you have any questions or requests about what I want for discussion, or you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. And I hope you're enjoying these videos. So, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.